Before continuing with this chilling and true story, an important request. If you enjoy real stories about truck drivers, life stories, and deep reflections on our role and safety, don't forget to support our channel. Like this video, comment below what caught your attention the most and share it with someone who also enjoys horror stories. This really helps our content reach more people and makes YouTube's algorithm understand that it is worth delivering this material to those who value what is done seriously and respectfully. Your support strengthens not only this channel, but also the fight to preserve incredible stories. Zeta Bolea was a soft-spoken truck driver with an easy smile. The sun was shining brightly. The asphalt was shimmering before his eyes when, out of nowhere, a motorcycle flew past his rearview mirror. Before he could even react, a dog ran across the road in despair. Zay braked hard, trying to avoid a tragedy, but the collision was inevitable. The motorcycle skidded, throwing Lucas and Marina to the ground. Zay's heart almost stopped. In seconds, he jumped off the cab and ran to the young people, fearing the worst. Luckily, they were alive, with a few bruises and frightened faces. Meanwhile, the dog, unharmed, disappeared into the woods. Without thinking twice, Zay put the damaged motorcycle in the trunk of the truck, welcomed the young people into the cabin and whistled until he lured the dog back, scared and trembling. With the three injured, humans and animal, Zay set a new goal: to take them safely to the nearest hospital, in Linhars. But the task was far from simple. The truck was heavy, the road was full of potholes, and the heat was making the engine work at its limit. In the back seat, Lucas complained of pain in his shoulder, and Marina was trying to stop the bleeding from her knee. The dog, nestled in her lap, was moaning softly, still dazed. On the radio, news of traffic jams ahead made the situation even more complicated. And, as if that weren't enough, the truck's battery lights started flashing threateningly. Zay knew he had to act quickly before they were stranded in the middle of nowhere with no help. As they approached Linhars, they faced the worst: a huge traffic jam caused by emergency roadworks. The hospital was only 5 kilometers away, but it seemed unattainable. Zay looked at the young people and the dog and felt the weight of responsibility. He could wait hours in traffic or try a parallel dirt route which he barely knew, and where the truck could get stuck. The decision had to be made quickly. Deep down, he knew that if he didn't take the risk, Marina's situation could get worse. He took a deep breath, adjusted his cap on his head, and turned onto the dirt road, hoping that the courage that gave his canal its name would also guide him in this bold choice. The road was a real challenge. Mud, holes, and fallen branches tested every inch of Zeta Bolea's skills. The truck shook violently, and at several moments it seemed like they would get stuck. But he didn't give up. He could feel the wheels skidding, the engine roaring with effort, and yet he kept going with his teeth clenched and his eyes fixed on the horizon. Lucas and Marina held on as best they could, encouraging the truck driver not to stop. The dog, with wide eyes, seemed to understand that they were all in a race against time. Every meter gained was a victory. When they finally saw the hospital, a chorus of relief filled the cabin. They had made it. At the hospital, Marina needed stitches on her knee and Lucas received simple bandages. Zay took advantage of the time to improvisely arrange the motorcycle in the trunk, and the dog, now calmer, would not leave his new friend's side. It was at that moment that they decided the dog needed a name worthy of that adventure. Between smiles and jokes, suggestions came up like moto, turbo, piston, and freno. So they decided to ask for help from the channel's followers. They recorded a video right there, telling everything that had happened, showing the dog, who still had no name, and inviting the audience to participate in the story. Back on the road, the trio stopped at a gas station to rest. They improvised a small camp next to the truck, eating bread with mortadella and laughing at the dog's antics. Life sometimes surprises, thought Zayda Bolea, bringing problems that, in the end, become unforgettable stories. That unexpected adventure taught them that even on the most difficult days there is room for new beginnings and new bonds, and that, deep down, when the road seems full of dangers, it is precisely there that the best friendships are born, between a truck, a motorcycle, and a dog. Rogerio was a middle-aged truck driver, known by the few who crossed his path as a quiet and kind-hearted man. He spent weeks on the road, crossing forgotten cities and stretches of dense forest, carrying goods between the interior of Goiás and São Paulo. On that night of cloudy skies and a full moon, he was driving along the BR-050, absorbed in his thoughts and lulled only by the continuous roar of the engine. Loneliness was as familiar to him as the smell of diesel and the crack of wood beneath his tires. He was on his way to yet another routine delivery, his life shaped by repetition, until something different cut through the darkness. A female silhouette staggered on the shoulder, her arms waving in despair. Rogerio stepped on the brake without hesitation, feeling his heart race, unaware that from that moment on his life would never go back to the way it was before. The young woman's name was Jade. She was injured, her clothes were torn, and her eyes were filled with a fear that Rogerio had never seen before. Through tears and words cut short by her lack of breath, she told him that she was running away from something that seemed unbelievable. A werewolf, a creature half man, half beast who kept her imprisoned on an isolated farm, forcing her to live under threats and violence. Jade spoke of rituals, nights of terror, and showed deep marks on her body. Rogerio, a man of simple faith and respectful of the legends he had heard from his elders, did not doubt it. If she said she was running away from a monster, then he would believe her. Without thinking much, he opened the passenger door and told her to get in. But the threat was not far behind. Shortly after, in the rearview mirror, Rogerio saw something huge and fast emerging from the forest, running after them. Knowing that the main road would not offer any chance of losing him, Rogerio did the only thing his instincts told him to do. He yanked the steering wheel hard and threw the truck onto a dirt road that crossed the plantation. The truck shook. Violently, the bodywork groaned under the pressure of the ditches and rocks, but he held the steering wheel firmly. Outside, the creature howled, getting closer and closer. Jade was shaking, huddled in the seat, and Rogerio needed to find a way out quickly. After miles of blind flight, he saw a clearing surrounded by dense trees and stopped the truck there, turning off the lights. They remained silent, listening attentively to the sounds of the forest. To break the tension, Rogerio spoke about his difficult childhood, marked by the violence of a drunk and abusive father, and how he swore never to allow anyone close to him to suffer again without protection. Minutes later, blue and red lights cut through the night. The police, summoned by a desperate call from Jad before the escape, finally arrived. The werewolf, now apparently transformed back into an ordinary man, was handcuffed and taken away under heavy guard. It was discovered that he was wanted in 3 states, accused of kidnapping, false imprisonment, and violence. Jad was sent to a support home in Franca, where she began a new life, far from the horrors she had lived through. After giving his statement, Rogerio returned to the road. He was not looking for recognition, just the peace of knowing that he had done the right thing. Months later, he received a letter from Jad. She had gotten a job, was studying and rebuilding her life. As he read the letter, sitting in the cab of the truck parked under an old yellow ipe tree, Rogerio smiled with a mixture of sadness and hope. He thought about how unexpected encounters can change not only a person's destiny, but also bring meaning to a lifetime of solitary paths. He understood that, even amidst so many miles of solitude, there was still room for acts of courage, for silent kindness, and for fighting monsters, both internal and external. And so, with the engine humming softly and the sun rising on the horizon, Rogerio continued his journey, taking with him the certainty that sometimes saving someone is also saving yourself. The road was his home. João, an experienced truck driver with over 2 decades of experience between curves, storms, and silent nights, knew every toll booth, every pothole, every coffee stop like the back of his hand. His routine was simple, marked by the constant sound of the engine, the smell of diesel, and the solitude of the shoulders. On a rainy night in São Paulo, while driving to Campinas to deliver a load of electronics, he stopped at a gas station to fill up and drink a strong black coffee, the kind that keeps your eyes open until the sun comes up. The radio crackled, disjointed news while thunder split the sky. That was when he saw her, an elderly woman in dark robes standing under the awning of the gas station, wet and shivering. Her wrinkled face hid a lost look, and her clothes made it clear she was a nun. But the strangest thing was the emptiness in her gaze, as if she were there and at the same time in another world. João, driven by an impulse he himself could not explain, approached her and asked if she needed help. The nun said a few words, in a soft, almost childish tone, revealing that she was lost and could not remember the way home, the convent. She had no documents, no cell phone, and seemed confused about even her own name. João's sense of urgency was pressing. He needed to deliver the cargo before dawn to avoid a heavy fine and perhaps even losing his contract with the transport company. Still, something about that fragile woman prevented him from leaving her behind. Against all logic, he opened the truck door, helped the nun climb in, and promised to take her back home. His goal now was different: to help her find her way back, to the convent and, who knows, back to herself, even if that meant putting his career at risk. The journey was long and full of unexpected events. The rain came down hard, making the road slippery and dangerous. The GPS was no help, since the nun could not remember the name of the convent, and only provided fragments of memories. A fountain, with stone angels, the smell of fresh bread in the morning, the sound of bells echoing at dusk. João tried to look for nearby convents in the outskirts of Indaiatuba, but each call was a disappointment. At one of the stops, he had to face a group of robbers who tried to intercept the truck, and only escaped thanks to a risky maneuver in the wrong lane. The nun, strangely calm, prayed quietly the whole time, as if she knew that the danger was temporary. With each passing hour, the tension grew, as did the fear of losing everything for a gesture that perhaps would not even be understood by anyone. Upon arriving at the convent, João was greeted by a shower of hugs and tears. The sisters ran to get the nun, who, upon seeing the familiar faces, seemed to wake up from a dream. She looked at João, touched his calloused hand, and said firmly, "My diesel angel." The scene moved everyone. João, tired but at peace, returned to the truck with his chest full of emotions and a note from the nuns with eternal thanks. However, when he returned to the transport company, he received an official warning and a fine for being late, a consequence of his choice. But he was not shaken. He felt he had done the right thing. The next day, the phone rang. It was from the convent. The nun had recovered part of her memory and asked to thank once again the man who, according to her, was sent by God. As the days went by, João began to visit the convent frequently. There he found something that the road had never given him: peace. Amidst fresh bread, calm conversations, and sincere prayers, he found a new meaning for his life. The transport company, touched by the repercussions of the story and the emotion of customers and friends, decided to revoke the punishment, promote João, and offer him better working conditions. He was now recognized not only for his performance on the roads, but for the humanity he carried in his heart. The lesson was as clear as the sunrise. The true dedication we make in life is not in the cargo transported, but in the gestures that cross invisible borders and change destinies. And in that truck on any rainy night, an ordinary man became a legend, not for his speed or efficiency, but for choosing the path of his heart.